We'd like to warmly welcome everyone to this Microsoft 365 Development Biweekly call. Today is November 25th. I am your host, David Warner from Catapult and a PnP team member. Our agenda for today, we're going to cover a variety of the PnP initiatives, latest on the PnP framework, Core SDK, PowerShell, Yo Teams, Microsoft Graph Toolkit. We're going to talk about some team samples and Power Platform sample opportunities for everyone to contribute to. And then we're going to see three incredible demos. I will cover the first one on Contributors Corner, GitHub Contributions using the VS Code web editor. Now, just as a heads up for that, it is an interactive demo. So if you have a GitHub account, please be signed in and we will all be able to participate. It's going to be a lot of fun. Then we're going to have Anand on creating an event page in SharePoint with SharePoint Spaces and custom lists. And of course, Chris Kent will be joining us and to show us some list formatting magic. Can't wait to see what he's got up his sleeve for today. Opportunities to participate in the community are always available to you. You can demo a solution or a technical pattern. You can contribute on GitHub, or you can provide feedback. We also have a specific form for you to fill out if you would like to perform a demo on one of these calls. We know sometimes it's not sure who to reach out to, so just go fill out that form, and we always invite you to get involved and participate in the community. We have a number of opportunities to do that. In fact, you can either consume or contribute back. The first are our developer videos and community videos, both of which are available at those two aka.ms URLs. They include videos such as the recordings of these calls and some introductory videos on how to get started, tutorials and stuff like that. So definitely take advantage of those. Very popular, very useful. We have a number of open source initiatives that are available, things that you're going to see us talk about today, things like Yo Teams and PnP PowerShell, Core SDK, stuff like that. You can absolutely get involved there. There's a variety of URLs at the bottom there, and all of our sample galleries. You can always take advantage of using those samples, or you can contribute back. They include things like team samples, SPFX samples, Power Platform samples, SPFX extensions, list formatting, ACEs, and more. Script samples, which you'll hear about here shortly from Paul Bullock. Again, all open source, all available to you. You only need to remember one URL to access all of this. That is aka.ms/m365pnp. So let's talk about one of our first initiatives today, script samples. Paul, tell us a little bit about it.
Thank you, David. So Script Samples is a site where you can host your PowerShell scripts or Bash scripts, so you can share those with the community. So we cover things like, well, it's open to any sort of variety of tooling. So the focus of this tool currently is around Microsoft Graph scripts, CLI for 365, PnP PowerShell, SPO management shell tooling, and more. So it's not really locked down to those tool sets. So if you've got a PowerShell script in another tool that you want to push to this site, certainly reach out, submit a PR, and we can get that included. Just an update on the growing sample. So we've got two new scenarios. So scenarios, just to cover that, what that is like a task that you want to perform against the Microsoft 365 service. So for example, I've got on the screen there a report of private team channels in Excel. So that's a scenario. And when we've got updated samples, what that means is we've got the same scenario may be covered by PnP PowerShell or the CLI for Microsoft 365, for example. And so we've got 4 updated samples there. So thank you very much for the contributors that continually contribute that. The effort's been amazing on that repository. So thank you very much. In the last couple of weeks, we've had quite a few contributions from Adam and Leon, and also reach out to Veleres as well to say thank you for the input on the issues. There's been some great conversations going on about improving the scripts and even the CLI itself. If you want to know more about this CLI, we've got a blog post about how to get started, what it's about. There's a little YouTube video there as well, and I'll post that link in the chat just after. But yeah, there's one address if you want to go to the site itself. So that's aka.ms/script-samples. Thank you, David.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul. And of course, as we talk about contributing and using the resources in the community, we understand that there may be times where there are some hurdles into doing that. The Sharing is Caring program is here to provide you hands-on guidance. These are opportunities to collaborate with members of the PnP team and other members in the community where we will provide you that hands-on guidance in a safe space, opportunity to ask any and all questions. We'll walk you through things like how to contribute in GitHub, how to be a better presenter, how you can start setting up your SPFX workstation, a number of sessions. None of them are recorded. They're all safe space opportunities. And we also are having the ever popular now AMAs. In fact, next Tuesday, we'll be on Microsoft Graph Toolkit with Sebastian Levert. So go sign up for any of these. They're all free, all opportunities to collaborate and learn in safe space environments. So we invite you to join any and all of them that you would like. Now, once you do contribute, we want to recognize and celebrate you. We have our PnP recognition program, which is partnering with Credly to provide you digital badges that you can connect to your LinkedIn profile. You can share on your website. They will show right next to your certification badges. Yes, that is the same Credly that powers the Microsoft certification program. So take advantage. We have no cost here. We cover the cost for you, and we would love to see you be celebrated for the work you're doing. We do need you to opt in, though, and sometimes there are times where those emails that get sent out for badges are flagged as spam, or sometimes they're considered spam and accidentally deleted. So if you do register and you haven't gotten a badge, don't hesitate to reach out to myself or Hugo Bernier. We can investigate that for you, but we do want to celebrate you all. So please, aka.ms/m365pnp-recognition. We have an update for our Patterns and Practices team members. We're excited that this team is growing. You can see a number of our new members here to the team, and they are doing amazing work. Maybe send a shout out to them, congratulate them on Twitter or LinkedIn, and we are so happy to have them be part of the team. The Microsoft Platform Call is a newer call that started in August. It is every Tuesday, and it is by Microsoft engineering and employees. So next Tuesday on the 30th of November, we've got a trio of fantastic demos on application certification, Viva connections, APIs and adaptive cards extensions, and an introduction to Microsoft Graph Go SDK. So if you don't have the invite, you can get it directly at that link. And you can get that on your calendar to take advantage of this call. Again, it is like an inside look by those working directly within Microsoft. So make sure it's on your calendar and take advantage of being there. Next up, we'll discuss PnP Net Libraries. And I'll hand it over to Bert.
Yeah, thank you, David. In the PnP .NET world, we had like a major milestone, I would say, because we shipped .NET 6 versions of our libraries. So .NET 6 was released early November, and now the PnP .NET libraries both PnP Framework and Core SDK have a .NET 6 version. You might wonder, like, why is that important? Well, .NET 6 is just more performant. Just by using that version, you already gain performance, especially in cloud-based scenarios. What else happened? Patrick Helgen did work on improving the network reliability. So now if sometimes we see either SharePoint or something else at network say like, yeah, socket exception, something happened and the call ends. Now our retry logic also covers those, and we kind of do a quick retry there. That definitely will help with reliability. Sergey did work around list webhooks. So PnP Core SDK now does support list webhooks. Again, a great and enormous contribution from Sergey. And looking at the list here, we had several other small things. Maybe one thing to call out is tutorials. We have added 2 tutorials and more to come, which is like a step-by-step guide for you to start working with PnP Core SDK. And there's one around the Azure functions using .NET 6 process isolated mode. So really, the latest and the greatest combined with the PnP Core SDK. So go check it out. All right, PowerShell. For the current one, I think one milestone is the 1 million downloads. So the PowerShell has been downloaded 1 million times. Great. And the amount of executions is just massive, 75 million. Commandless executed each day. Just do the math and calculate how many that is per second. You should actually do that. Now the team is heavily focused on working on the V2 of PowerShell. So V2 PowerShell will be .NET 6 only. It will require PowerShell 7.2. So again, latest, greatest. And there is like a shift in thinking. Like the current commandlets, sometimes they have like 1 million arguments, and they can be quite complex to kind of find the right arguments to get the job done. With the new one, the next version, the V2, the aim is to make it a bit more scenario focused and simpler. So that's one thing. The other thing is there will be less CSOM, there will be no CSOM being exposed by PowerShell, let's put it like this. So you don't get CSOM objects back. You can just get clean, nice objects back that are PowerShell objects. So and then the covers, if PowerShell uses CSOM, cause decay, graph, whatever, in the end, it doesn't really matter. They can switch out the implementation, but for you as a script user, things will just stay stable and the same. And that sums it up, David. Back to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Bert. I think that's about 868,055 requests per second. I was doing some quick math there on the side. So that is amazing. Yeah. All right. Great. Let's move into Yo Teams, and we'll hand the mic over to Victor, I believe.
Hey all, we had a great week. We did some publishing of new stuff. We released version 3.5, which contains a completely new template for scaffolding out bots. So thanks to Stefan for that, and thanks to the whole team for helping out with this. But essentially, the bot being scaffolded now is more similar to the bot framework samples that exists in the bot framework sample GitHub repo. So you can more or less copy paste back and forth in an easier way. But also, I think that the biggest milestone is that we do have sort of the general available release. We have the preview release. There's currently no preview release, but we do have a new next release. And the next release contains the new Teams JavaScript SDK version 2.0 that's out in beta right now. And we will not move until version 4 until that is GA. But if you want to explore the new Teams.js SDK 2.0, which supports promises instead of callbacks, and also supports the new Microsoft 365 apps where you can host an app in Office.com, in Outlook.com, and also in the Outlook client. Then you should use the generator next version. It also supports the new sort of dev preview manifest specifically for that. We also released the core packages, the build, core, and deploy. Just minor changes in that, but essentially we added telemetry. Just so we can get an understanding of what kind of gulp tasks, etc., are being used, so we can focus our efforts on the right place. You have all the documentation available in the URL you see here, and specifically there's one about telemetry. If you want to opt out of that, we don't track IPs or anything like that. It's only what commands are being used, and nothing about your content. So the commands and location and time and version of the node and etc. Pretty stable in usage. The only thing I want to highlight is that most people are still using generator version 3.2, which is 6-7 months old, but still most of the applications are be scaffolded with that one. So please go update to at least 3.5 and please try out the next version. And if you're interested in contributing, we are in desperate needs of updating our documentation with all the new great features and better samples. So please go ahead. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Victor. Microsoft Graph Toolkit, Sebastian Levert, tell us a bit more.
Awesome. Thanks, David. So last week we did a new release. So we released our version 2.3.1. That includes a couple of bug fixes, some global improvements, and 2 new community contributions. So you can see the full release notes, akms/mgt/v2.3.1. Waldek and Andre for your contributions. If you're looking into contributing into MGT, feel free to go to our repo. We have a lot of good first issues, and also please help with anything you think that is relevant to you. Issues, feature requests, anything, feel free to jump in. What's next? We are right now aligning our toolkit to our Fluent UI web components. So the toolkit is built using the web components technologies, and we're bringing the Fluent UI web components capabilities within the toolkit. So that's going to be great. Lots of amazing experiences, especially when you're going to go from Teams to SharePoint to the Outlook client or whatsoever, wherever your code is running. Going to have a great feeling right there. We're also working right now on an agnostic or generic MGT picker component where you will be able to build your own APIs in there. So if you want to pick a list or pick an e-discovery case or pick anything, you're going to be able to do that with a generic picker. And finally, would love to get your feedback. So we have 2 new components right now that are in discussions. One, which is MGT search. So we're looking at integrating with the search capabilities to give you a nice suggestions UI and results, but also with the MGT picker. If you have anything you'd like to add, feel free to get these PR and issues. And if you want to try what's next, you can do our @next package to get to our 2.3.2 version, or if you want to do @next.fluent UI to know where we're going with our Fluent integration, feel free to use them. Back to you, David.
Awesome. Thank you, Seb. Next up is Microsoft Team samples. There are a number of samples here for you to take advantage of, and we're always looking for new samples to be contributed as well. So don't hesitate to take advantage of using those to learn, to implement, as well as to contribute back. And if you've got an idea, there's a team sample wish list. You can take advantage of filling out that form and provide maybe an idea that you've got that you would like to see created as a sample. Again, aka.ms/teams-samples. And we also have Power Platform samples. There is a variety of Power Platform samples that you can take advantage of. Power Apps, Power Automate, Power Virtual Agents, Power Effects. Don't hesitate. We are looking for more samples as well. And if you have samples you'd like to contribute, we have our newest Sharing is Caring initiative program or session specifically on Power Platform samples. And you'll see a little sneak peek of that today in one of the demos, actually. So take advantage of that, aka.ms/Power Platform-samples. Now it's everybody's favorite optional picture time. So we will let Vesa take over the screen here if you'd like to share your camera and wave hello today.
Let's see. I will get the screen in here. We are already recording, and we have a bit less people today because of the Thanksgiving in US. So I will enable my camera as well. Let's see how many people we actually get in the call. Few more seconds. Still, there's some room. Still some room. Oh, this is good. It's filling up. It's filling up. Exactly. Everybody's learning this really fast. Okay, let's do some hand waving, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for joining once again today. We will keep on executing this community calls throughout the holiday season as well. Thank you for being part of us and part of the community. And Chris, I can see you in the back row. Behave. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. And good example being there, Seb, on the back as well. Thanks, everybody. Cool. Let's go back on the demos.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Vesa, and everyone. Love to see the smiling faces. All right, so our demos for today, I will kick this off, actually, and this is going to be a little fun. So let me move over to my other slide deck. All right. We're going to talk about GitHub contributions using the VS Code web editor. My name is David Warner. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. And it's important to note also that on this demonstration, it is going to be a live and interactive demonstration, so you're all able to participate. In fact, if you're watching the video on demand after today's session, you can still participate following along. Everything you see us doing today, you'll be able to do on demand afterwards. So we look forward to seeing those contributions trickle in. Let's talk about traditional GitHub contributions. So, historically, you've had to kind of combine a number of technologies to be able to contribute via GitHub to some of our initiatives. So you'd have to install Git, then you would go ahead and create a GitHub account, which is free, and then you would use a variety of tools, and you could choose, and these are not all encompassing, but you would use the command line. You would type all of your interactions with GitHub, and not always the most favorite for everyone, especially if it's new for you. You could use Visual Studio Code, download Visual Studio Code, install an extension. You still had to install Git, and maybe it was a little bit more cumbersome to do all those things, but it maybe was a better environment in the end because it was much more clickety-clackety, right? You could just kind of point and click. Or you could install GitHub Desktop, again, an independent solution that you could utilize. But when you combine all of these, if you're brand new and you're not sure how and where and to get started, it's a little overwhelming. And so combining all these tools and understanding them could be a little intimidating. Let's talk about a simplified GitHub contribution approach. Now, all you really need is GitHub and a browser. You don't even need to install VS Code if you don't want. We recommend you do, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few moments. But to actually get started making a full contribution, all you need is a GitHub account and a browser. So what does that look like? Well, let's jump directly into our demo. So let's talk a little bit about the agenda and the requirements. So be logged into your GitHub account. Again, this is not just for what I'm going to show you, but for all of you, it is interactive. We're going to open up VS Code in the web. And maybe you're like, what kind of portal to some other world is that? Yes, it is available. We're going to create a README file together. So you're all going to create a README with your username file. We're going to just add a nice little geographic location to the README greetings from wherever you're at. We're going to commit. Maybe that's a new foreign term to you. Commit is just a fancy way of saying we're going to save it to GitHub, and then we're going to submit a pull request. And if the pull request term is also unfamiliar, the simplified way of looking at a pull request is that you're going to make a change to a repo that you don't own or administer, but you're then going to copy it into your account, and you're going to make that change, and then you're going to send a request to the administrators of the repo you don't own to pull it in. So think of it kind of, you maybe think you're pushing it in, but it's actually kind of the reverse. You're asking them or making the request for them to pull it back. So if anybody encounters any issues along the way today where your experience is different from what we're presenting on the screen, just bear in mind, we won't be able to stop and help anyone individually, but we can do that in the Sharing is Caring sessions. We provide hands-on guidance, so please sign up. We'll have some links for you to do that, but let's see if we can break some records today. So the first thing you want to do is you want to pull up the page and the repository we're going to edit. So if you go to pr.sharing.ms, that is going to take you to the Sharing is Caring repository. So here I am. I'm going to put that in right there, and that's going to take you to the Sharing is Caring repository. Now, this is GitHub. We're probably all familiar with it. If we've ever been to it, it's likely been a little intimidating because you're seeing a lot of foreign terms like fork and a variety of other things that we may not be familiar with. But there is a very, very cool thing hiding behind all of this that I bet you didn't know. So bring up this URL, make sure you're logged in. Now I'm using an account here that is not my typical account. And again, I'm just calling that out because if I were to do it as my typical account, it would be an administrative account. So I want you to see everything that I'm seeing. I have no special rights here. So there's nothing I'm doing that's unique to what you're going to be able to do. But when you're on this page, github.com/PnP/sharing-is-caring, I want you to do one little thing that probably and hopefully will blow your mind. Hit the period key. Now, you can't see me doing this, so I'm describing it, but hit the period key and you're going to see the results of that. Setting up the web editor. Now, what this has done, let's take a moment, is it's actually just changed our URL. Right, so it's taken us to github.dev/PnP/sharing-is-caring. And so you could actually do that by just changing the URL there from .com to .dev, but it's taken us into a web version of VS Code. Right now, there are a number of maybe familiar things to you. If you're familiar with it, like extensions, you can actually install some extensions via the web, which is crazy. And it utilizes the functionality of a real extension in VS Code called GitHub repositories, which we'll talk about in a moment. But you can do everything here as if you had installed Git and were using any one of those other tools I told you about. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to create a new file, all of us together, and we're going to submit a pull request together, each individually. So we've got this folder here called PnP Demo Contributions. All right. And if you open it, there's just a sample, and we're just going to leave that there. We use that to instantiate the folder. And you can create a new file in a couple of ways. You can right click and select new file. Right? Or if you're clicked on the folder, and we want to make sure we're clicked on the folder, you can also do the little new file icon right there. And that will create a new file. So in either case, it's a little easier to right click on the folder and select new file. That ensures that you're creating a file in that folder. And so you want to click new file, and that's going to open up a little text box here. And I'm going to just type warner.digital.md. Now, it's important that you'll type whatever your username is, right? You want to make sure you type whatever your username is because we want a bunch of unique files here, right? If we all name the same file, we're going to create collisions and overwrite each other's files. And so this will ensure that all GitHub usernames are unique. So you hit enter. And that just creates a simple little markdown file. And we're not going to do anything crazy here. We're just going to say greetings from, and I'm going to say Los Angeles, not Los Angeles, Angeles, yes. and just add a couple of heart emojis. And you can actually go ahead and put in whatever it is that you're from. We'll see where everyone's from. This is a nice way of showing how far spread the community is. And you'll notice I don't have to save, right? Everything is automatically saved. And we kind of see that if we look right over here, that is what identifies changes that we're making in this repository. Right. And so we see one, and that's because we added this little markdown file, and we see that as well by the little A icon, which means added. Now, again, don't feel overwhelmed by all this. We want you to join a Sharing is Caring session to learn more. We're just showing you how simple it is for you to interface directly into GitHub. Now, we talked about not owning any of these repos, right? Like none of us are using an account that owns this repo or is an administrator in this repo. So how is it that we're going to make this change? Well, if you click on the source control at this point, it's automatically saved. You click on the source control and it shows the changes that we've made, right? So there's our file. In fact, we could double click on that and it shows us what the before and after was because it never existed before. So now it exists and it's showing us what we added, right? Now, in addition to that, what we can do is, I'll close that, open that back up, and it says to create a pull request, enter a message. Now, we're not going to create a pull request directly from here, but what we are going to do is commit. So we still want to enter a message, and we'll just say added greetings file, something simple. You can write whatever you want, and we want to commit it. And so you'll notice when I hover over the little checkbox there, it allows me to commit. Now, again, commit is a fancy way of saying save, but you may think, how is it that we're going to commit to a repo that we don't own? Well, that's where the source control comes in. So I'm going to click that, I'm going to click commit, and it's going to tell me right here, you're trying to make changes to a project you don't have right access to because we're not an administrator. So it's going to ask me, do you want to create a fork of this project to commit the proposed changes to? So remember, a fork is just a fancy way of saying, make a copy of it in my account so I can make changes to it, and then we'll submit a pull request. So yes, if you get this message, then you want to select fork repository. Now, for anyone that's already joined a Sharing is Caring session and already forked the Sharing is Caring repo, you likely will not get this message because you've already forked it. You'll go directly to where it asks you the next thing, which is, would you like to create a branch? And so, yes, we want to create a branch. We're not going to get into too much detail on exactly what a branch is, but it is a copy of a copy. Join the Sharing is Caring, again, if you'd like to learn more about it. But it's just a normal way of software development lifecycle contributions in making a copy of a copy, so it's an isolated place to make your changes. We'll leave it at patch 1 or whatever the name of yours is. So you hit enter. And now it's told me, okay, committed, again, fancy way of saving your changes to your fork of Sharing is Caring. Do you want to switch to your fork to continue to make changes? So we're going to say, yes, we want to switch to fork. And now it refreshes it, and you'll notice that the URL is no longer pointing at PnP Sharing is Caring. It is now pointing at whatever your URL is, whatever your account name is, right? Because now we've made that change. We've got a copy of a copy here, patch 1. And if I expand this, then we can see there's my file. Now, none of us are going to see each other's files yet, right? Because we are not making a pull request, so we just see our own. So how do we make that formal pull request? There is a couple of ways. We could actually do it directly from here if we wanted to, right? So if I were to come here and say pull request, create pull request, it actually creates a little interface here showing me exactly how to do that. There's a little newness here, though. It doesn't include things like our pull request template. I wanted to point this out, though, just so you knew it. But what we're going to do is we're going to click on the little hamburger menu item here and select Go to Repository. All right, Go to Repository. And what that does is it opens up a new tab and takes us to our repository. And it shows, in fact, or it should show, patch 1 had pushes 1 minute ago. Right now, it shows us here is our branch list right here. But we can compare and pull requests. So if you don't see this little yellow box and the button, you can always go to your branch right here. When you drop down, it should show your branches, and there is my branch right there. So I'm going to select that. Now, when I select that, it shows I'm ahead, right? And so I could click Compare Pull Request, or you have this Contribute button right here that shows that as well, right? So either of those buttons are the exact same thing. You want to click Open Pull Request. Now, what we've done is we created a pull request template specifically for this call. So just real briefly, we're going to run through updating that. So you want to fill in an X. You can always use the preview tab to show the PnP demo has been checked. This is the category. Again, every repository has specific PnP or pull request templates to fill out. It's always important to read them. We're making this one pretty accelerated for the demo. So I'm just going to say PnP greetings demo. And so we fill that out. You can click the preview tab to make sure everything looks accurate. As you scroll down, you're able to see all of the changes we made. We're adding a file, one addition, who made it, commit, again, fancy way of saying save, one file changed, contributor. Okay, so now the rubber hits the road. Don't pay any attention to this up here. This is showing where we're going to push it to. And again, we talk more about this in our sessions. It's already defaulted to master for you. And you should be able to click create pull request. And if all goes well, my email will be blowing up here, and anyone subscribed, I already see 5 pull requests, 17. Awesome. And they continue to come in. So clearly everyone is doing well. That is fantastic. And here they come. I'm going to mute my speakers. All right. Let's talk a little bit more about some options that are available to you. You may not love editing everything in the browser, but it is amazing that that technology exists. Everything we just did in that web-based experience is also available in a GitHub repositories VS Code extension. If you do enjoy working within VS Code, it is highly recommended you have a little bit more experience that you can take advantage of. And so you can go install this. It's only a few months old, actually, and it will give you that same experience. You have to authenticate from within VS Code to your GitHub account, whereas through the browser, you're already authenticated, so it just simplifies that. But take advantage of that VS Code extension. It is very, very cool. If you had trouble in this demonstration and interactive collaboration opportunity, please don't let it frustrate you. Come join us. Sharing is caring. We have a first-time contributor session that will walk you through that hands-on safe space opportunity, and we will show you all of those cool tools in a number of sessions. We absolutely want to see you get more involved, but we wanted to highlight how simple it really is to go from 0 to pull request within just what we've done in 15 minutes using the amazing new technology that's available to us. So thank you again all for your time on this. GitHub repositories VS Code extension you can get to at ghextend.sharing.ms and of course aka.ms sharing is caring. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions at all. We love to see you get more involved. With that, let's move into our next demo by Anand, and feel free to take over the screen share, Anand. Create an event page in SharePoint with SharePoint Spaces and custom lists.
Absolutely. Thank you, David. Hi, everyone. I am Anand, an IT consultant working with SharePoint and the Power Platform. In the recent months, I have become an active community contributor, thanks to some inspiring community members, some of whom are in the meeting today. I'm excited to be joining the call today and present to you all an event page created in SharePoint using spaces and formatted lists. The solution itself involves blending spaces, lists, a timer web part, and a quick links web part for the user interface, supported by an events web list that works in the background. So first of all, what I'd like you to do is show you the event page itself in action, and then dive into the backend setup. So with that, I will dive into the demo here, and that is here. So what you see here is my event page. And that is, it's actually the content and the data that you see here is all some sample data that I pulled together from my dev client. The event itself is it's called hybrid in this case. It's a 2-day event focusing on the future of work. And what you see on this event page is, first of all, a header that I put in here with some introductory text, and then followed by the SharePoint space embedded web part. So basically what I've done is created a space within this site and then embedded that in here using the embed web part. And you will see here it loads in a sort of idle state, and then only upon the user clicking that in web part will it then actually load. And that was actually a performance tip that I got actually from the Microsoft Spaces team. So now within this space, the users are greeted with a welcome message, of course, and then there is an introductory video as well that they can click and watch and pull it up close if they wanted to, and then they can click and drag to look at the different components that are in the space. We have a SharePoint icon here, which takes the user to the learning and training content that we've curated here that are related to this event. And Teams is where we are running the event using live events, and a Yammer community where people can collaborate and take part in the conversation about the event. So that's the 360 or 3D space within the SharePoint event page. And on the right-hand side, you see a timer web part that basically tells the visitors they have the event is in 6 days. They can sign up for sessions, and right beneath that, I have used a list actually, and that shows up some key dates and important information about the what, when, where, and who about the event. If I further scroll down here, comes the sessions list, which is a custom JSON formatted list. I've used column formatting for this list. So it has these columns here. There's a session column, which tells the title of the event. People can read up about the title. They can then go here and click on the more icon here, and comes the pop-up message with the full text there. The host information is available here, and then a couple of hyperlink columns for the 2-day event itself. So they can see what times, which sessions are on which times, and then they can click open this to then open the actual event and then add it to their calendars, or they can simply join the meeting directly from here. And that sends them to the Microsoft Teams live event link. Finally, there is a session track column here, which tells them which track each session belongs to, and that I also have a complementary or a helper list, which is view formatted, and that with which users can then filter down the long list of sessions by tracks, and then they can take a look at all of that from here. And you'll see these color codes. I've used a border color here that matches with the track border color, so that tells a visual connection between the tracks and the list sessions in the list. Further down on the event page is the team information. That is the people that are behind the event. And hovering over the cards will open up the profile cards, and people can contact the team. Finally, on the page is a rate the event forms a survey link linked using the quick links web part, and that takes the users to rate the event page. So that is the event page. So what I'd like to do next is show you a quick page design and the code itself behind the scenes. So I'm going to go there. All right. So starting off with the space itself, the space is created on the same site, like I mentioned, and I have used some text web parts here, a video web part. The video is stored in the document library within the same site, and I've used some logo icons with some transparency background setting within the space to sort of nicely blend that into the space. And the event, the space itself is embedded on the event page, like I mentioned. And the other thing is, like, you might wonder why I went with a space and why not a hero or a highlighted content web part. A couple of reasons. One is I'm able to pack more content within the space without really taking too much real estate on the page itself, because I'm using the embed web part. And then the other thing is, as much as possible, I'd like to keep the users on the event page without them having to leave the page to go and access the content, because I can put in videos and the other embed parts within the space, and that loads up within that event page itself. And I've used this embed code to put in the space inside the page. So that's the space. Moving on. So I'll talk about the lists that I have on the event page. So the first list is the sessions list. Here I have these columns: sessions, single line text column, about is a multiple person column, multi-line column, host is a multiple person column. I have 4 hyperlink columns, which I showed, 2 of them for the event links, and 2 of them for the join links for the Microsoft Teams live events, and a session track, which is a single line text. So in terms of the backend setup, so what I've done is column formatting for each of these columns. So let's take a look at them. The session column is a single line text, and I have a div element type here with styling to only show the left-hand side border. And the border radius is set to 4px to basically get that curved edge look. And the borders are colored based on the track they belong to, like I was showing earlier. The session name is then rendered by a span element type. And I've also used a share button here with the custom row action property set to action type share. This then brings up the default share pop-up window when clicked, and then users can copy the link or send to email with the appropriate permission settings. So moving on to the second column, which is the about column. This is a multi-line text column, and here I have two div elements wrapped inside a parent div. And the first child div renders the text in the field, but restricts that to 70 characters. And the second child div renders the more icon. And when the icon is hovered, it shows the full text in a pop-out window. So that's the about column. And then the host column, the third one, is a multi-person column, which is basically an out-of-the-box field in lists. So for each person in the list item, it is rendered a div element, which contains two div elements. The first div element to show the person's image if the index value of the person in the array is less than or equal to 2, and a second div to basically show all person's name separated by comma. And this div also contains a span to show the number of remaining people in the person column. So we only show pictures for the first two, and the others we just show a +2, +1, and so on, depending on the number of people that are in the list item. The next one I have is the event day columns. These are two columns, hyperlink columns, and one for each day of the event. I basically apply the same formatting for both of them. Here I'm rendering two element type A's, one showing the time of the event, and this is basically a simple text that I have just put, a text string that I've put in the description field of the hyperlink, and the other one to let the user view or save the event to their calendar, and that is basically hrefing the current field itself, and that is picking up the hyperlink the URL that I've stored in the hyperlink field. So that is the event day column, and I also have this call to action pop out, again using custom card props on the field. Next, I have the join day columns, which are again two hyperlink columns, one for each day. Again, same formatting applied to these two as well. So within a div element type, I have a span for showing the team's logo, and then an element type A to show to href the team's live event. And I also have the same custom card props for the hover text for the call to action. And for the last column there, session track, I haven't really put in any formatting, but it's just a simple single line text. At the end of it, this is how the sessions list looks. So I did some column width adjustments as well, and saved that to the view so that it stays the same with the same dimensions in the page when embedded. And I've embedded using the list web part on the page, and then I've also hidden the command bar and all the see all options. The second list is the next one, and that is the tracks list. This, like I was showing, this acts as a helper list, allows users to filter the sessions by tracks, and this is how I've connected them, editing the sessions list, and then specifying using the dynamic filtering on the sessions list, and then choosing the tracks list for the filter. So for the tracks list itself, I've used view formatting. It has two columns, basically the title and the about column. The title is a single line, about is a multi-line. Both of them are rendered by two div elements inside an SP row card class, because I wanted that boxed card view. And then I also set a border styling so that the color matches the tracks colors in the sessions list. So users can see a color code sync between the two, sort of acting like a color legend, if you will. Then I have the people list, which is my third list on the event page. And it's basically to show all the people involved in the event. I mean, the reason I went with the list instead of the standard out-of-the-box people web part is because one reason I get more flexibility with this, the list, because I can customize it. And the other thing is I can fit in, let's say, 5 columns in that column layout, the section layout. Whereas if I went with the out-of-the-box people web part, I could only fit in 4, but I wanted to fit in 5 columns. So that was one of the reasons I did that. The people web part itself is it's actually out of the box tile view, simply stripped down to just show the person's image and the name with a hover profile card. So I haven't really done much formatting on that one. the list for, and the final one here is the what, when, where, and who of the event. That basically shows some key information about the event at the, like a quick summary at the very top. These are 4 columns, and then each of them are rendered by a span, which has the icon on and the field names that are rendered by span element types, and then the text content itself is rendered by a p element type, so it kind of sits beneath the title there. So this is the final result, the event page using SharePoint Spaces and formatted lists to design the user experience. And what I'm looking at the future of the event page after the event, I'd like to transform the event page itself into a sessions video recordings portal. That is, all sessions that are happening in the event, which will be recorded, of course, will then be later published on the same event page. And then I'm planning to use this JSON formatted SharePoint document library with a nice card view with a lot of rich information and action buttons, call to action buttons appearing there on the cards. That's how the page will transform into after the event. So that brings me to the end of my presentation. So thank you so much for listening. Here's all the sample code. I actually put it out there in the community blog. Thanks to all the reviewers to have it published. I think it went out a couple of days ago. Everything that I showed in terms of the demo, the code is in that blog post. So you can scan that with the QR code. So thank you, and over to you, Dave.
Awesome, very, very cool stuff. That really looks clean and slick. Excellent job. Thanks for sharing it with us, and nice work. All right, let's move into list formatting tips and tricks with the one and only Chris Kent. Chris, take it away.
All right, just switch the old screen here. All right, well, happy Thanksgiving to David and I, and any other Americans that maybe showed up. But I'm Chris. Let's get started. All right, so we head over to our Classic Warrior Horses site, which is over here. Okay, and we're on our Classic Warrior Horses site. Now, a lot of the Warrior Horses are American-based, of course, so a lot of them are also celebrated Thanksgiving. Because, the pooled blood of enemies is like so much cranberry sauce, and, the tears of the fallen, they flow like gravy on the mashed potatoes of their victory. And, like most Americans, this is the one day a year that Americans can overeat, and so the horses are largely indulging in that. But for now, we're going to just take a look at a quick format. They've got this nice little secret passwords list up here. And so what we're going to want to do is head over there. And, oh, wait a second. What is this? What is this turkey? Some kind of takeover of the horses site. So maybe we'll skip the format of the passwords and, maybe storing passwords in a SharePoint list maybe isn't our best plan anyway. So let's head on over to our Gobble site and let's just refresh that and get rid of all that threatening stuff. Now, we have been to the turkey site a couple years ago on Thanksgiving. And when we were there, right, we saw the turkeys helped us build this lovely video viewer using only list formatting, right? And it was wonderful. We can hear 10 hours of turkey gobble anytime we want and so on. And that's really cool. Well, turns out the turkeys have just handed me a script. And they wanted me to demo some other things here. So they have this nice list called facts, right? So in it, they have placed a series of turkey facts. These facts come directly if you Google turkeys in Bing. These are the facts. So very exciting. Did I just say Google in Bing? I sure did. Happy Thanksgiving. All right. Well, let's take a look at something we could do with this. I mean, this is lovely, but they want to make this a little more interactive, right? So the first thing we'll do, let's take a look at some of the a new thing we do. We'll just call this whatever, because we're not really going to use this too much. Whatever. There we go. We're going to save that. And the whole idea is we just want a column we can format just so we can see things as they go. Let's zoom that slightly. There we go. And let's go to advanced mode so we can write our JSON directly. Let's make that a little bigger. And now all we're going to do is we're going to make sure we have our code over on the other screen so I don't mess up here. All right, we're going to say element type. All right, we're going to say it's a div. And we're going to wish that didn't happen as well. And then we're going to try and format that again. I've had some weird things with my keyboard. I don't know if anyone else is having this on these format things in this little Monaco editor. So we'll just forget that for now and hope. No, we will not. All right, let me try one thing here. I'm going to just turn this on. I normally turn that off for the demo, but let's turn it on for now just so we can see if we can actually write our formats. All right, even with that not on, let's see if we get helm type div. All right. I'm not sure what difference that just made, but we'll figure it out in a little bit here. But the idea is if we wanted text, right? So we just want to display something, we're going to put, you know, turkeys, right? And the idea here is if we do that, we have this lovely text in every line here. We've written turkeys inside a div. So we're generating the HTML div and we're putting the text inside of turkeys. That's very exciting. But let's see if we can try something else. Now, some of you may have seen this lovely guy before. So at now is the time at render in the local time zone of the user. So Eastern time zone here in the United States for me. And you can see that's pretty cool. And they're all the same pretty much because they're all rendered about the same time in terms of seconds. But what we may not realize is that if we wrap this in a number like this, and let's make sure we put an equal since we're now doing an expression, and preview that, what we're actually seeing there is the number of milliseconds since 1970 or something along those lines, right? Now, what is interesting is that although things render very, very fast, you can see there is actually a render time difference between rows, right? So even though this is rendering very, very quickly, because that's milliseconds, that changes. Well, that opens up some very interesting possibilities for us. Like, so how can we use this? Well, glad you asked, right? So one of the things we could do is we could use this. First off, let's make this a little bigger so we can see that. So let's add style and let's add that. Let's go just font size. I'm just going to make this way bigger. We'll say, I don't know, 44 pixels. That sounds very exciting. Woo, it's huge. Now you can see a little bit. But the idea here is if we say that, right, and we could say modular, right, by 2. So modular is just going to tell us what's the remainder after we divide this by 2. In this case, we're going to say it's either 0 or 1, right? Because those are really the only 2 options. So if we preview that, we can see we get 0 and 1. But if we save, so we can keep rendering it, you'll notice we essentially have a random value, right, between 0 and 1. Now that's cool, right? So how can we use that? So the traditional kind of randomized way to write this is you would, if you wanted to do like a range, right? So say we wanted to do between, you know, let's see, 0 and or 5 and 10, right? So we would want to put our min, and we would add that, and then we would say instead of modular by 10. Sorry, I've got someone knocking on the door here. I'm trying to ignore my children. So instead we would modular that by our maximum value plus 1 minus our min value. Now that is pseudo, that doesn't actually do anything. So in this case, we're just going to replace those. So if we wanted to value between 5 and 10, right, we'd say 5 here, and we put 10 here. And now we should have any values between 5 and 10. All right, there we go. Beautiful. So that's a cool way to do that. So now we've got this idea of random stuff, right? So how can we use that in formatting as of any practical use? Well, yes-ish. How's that sound? So one of the things we can do is we can wrap this up. So let's get rid of text. And so instead of text, let's actually make this an icon. All right, so let's do attributes. And we're going to say icon name. And we're just going to put the same kind of formula here. But in this case, we're going to say equals if, and we're going to say that same thing, number at now. And we don't really care about the range this time, so we're just going to say between 5 different things. And we're saying when that equals 0, why don't we do an icon of flower? That sounds nice, right? And then otherwise, why don't we do an icon of balloons? There we go, and we'll close that up. And so we can see that now we're largely going to get balloons, right? Because we've only given one case where we want to do flower. Now, if we expand that out a little further, we can just kind of keep cutting and pasting. So if we grab this if, and we grab all the way up to there, we copy that. We're just going to paste that in again. And let's make sure we add a closing item here. And so instead of flower now, let's type guitar. That sounds exciting. All right, so we've got a guitar. And now if we preview, let's change this to a 1. So the idea is now we've got a guitar that's showing up in the mix sometimes, right, with our flower and our balloons. And we can keep going out a little further. I'm just going to cut and paste for time the rest of this exciting formula. So you can see it's just extended it out. Now we have this idea of it can be a flower, a guitar, a shirt, or even an Xbox controller. Or in the case where it's a 4, which you're not seeing here, that's the else, it's balloons. So if we save that, hey, that's pretty cool. And we can even go a little further, right? So we can add a class, right? So if we want to set some colors here, I'm just going to take the exact type of thing here, and I'm going to place it up above it. All right, let's put it right here. Let's put class, and let's preview that. Now we've got this idea of colors that kind of get applied. Now you'll notice it's not common, but it's not exact, right? Because this isn't a true variable, right? We're not storing this and then evaluating it each time. It's being evaluated each time, and so it is possible, although it's pretty unlikely for my testing, that the milliseconds will change in between these. It still creates it pretty random, but if you're trying to coordinate randoms like colors with icons, that's going to get pretty difficult. Okay, and in that case, what you would want to do is randomize some of the display and some of the other items with these as a whole. Okay, so that's cool, neat, right? So what else can we do, right? So we can do this, we can show random things, we can kind of make our formats a little more dynamic when they get refreshed on the page. That's pretty neat. So let's just save that. But what about, we want to use this a little further, right? So the turkeys have gone through, they already recognized this was pretty ugly, right? They want to make sure they really emphasize things like their distinctive fleshy wattle. And so to do that, we're going to switch over to this fact list where they've applied a format already. Now this is a view format. And all it's doing is showing everything kind of like a card view, right? So, and there's a reason we didn't use the gallery view. Let's come back to that in a minute. But if we format that, and let's make this a little bigger so we can see, right? All this is it's just got a big box with some rounding, and then it's got, you know, a box for the image and a box for the title and a box for the details. So there's not a lot going on here. What we're going to do is we're going to take advantage of the fact that we've hidden the selection. That's going to be really key for this. And taking advantage of the fact that this is something we can't do in the gallery view because they are wrapped in a wrapper around them, but here we're not. And that's all we got to do is we add this right here. We're going to say position is absolute. All right, and we'll do that. Preview it. They all get stacked up on top of each other. So now we've got essentially one card displaying, and it's always the last item in the list. Because all the other ones that have been rendered underneath it, they're all drawn in the exact same spot. And, you know, that's an interesting idea, but why don't we say, you know, a little something else here, which would be our Z index. So Z index controls the layering, so the stacking of items in HTML, right? What goes on top of each other. And in this case, if we wanted to kind of randomize this, right? So we just want to do our Z index, and we're going to say equals, and we're going to do our number, and we're going to say that at now again. In this case, we're just going to modulate by 7, since that's the total number of items we have on the list. And let's save that. And look at that. We now have a randomly picked one showing up. So how does that help us, right? Well, it appears to be largely the last one there. Either way, so let's save that. It's saved. If we go over to our main page here, the turkeys, that is not the main page. Let's go back to our main turkey page. There we go. Gobble page. The turkeys have prepared a lovely article, and it's fine, right? It's got, you know, it's got charts, it's got quotes, it's got bullet points. I mean, everything you'd want in an article. Except what it doesn't have is beautiful turkey facts. So if we edit this page, and we come up here, we're going to add a section, and we're just kind of a nice vertical section over there on the right. And we're going to add ourselves the list, and we're going to grab that facts list. And here we're going to edit that so we can, let's get rid of the command bar, let's go to the see all, let's go to that medium, that sounds good. And our view is going to be that fact. All right, if we apply, we get our facts here, and let's republish. Should see, there you go. Now, whenever we visit this article, in addition to all our wonderful gobbledygoodness, right, we have this idea of a randomly generated fact showing up. It's not randomly generated, randomly showing fact. All right, so now we can see all sorts of really cool things here. So the turkeys love it. You can love it too. There's all sorts of different ways to use this. And let's just quickly review. All right, so just keep in mind, this is the formula. So this is really all you need to get that kind of random seed value. And then to use it, you could use this modular to kind of customize what that range is going to be. So this is the formula if you're trying to use kind of a custom range. You can leave it like this, 10 plus 5 minus, 10 plus 1 minus 5, or you can just do the math and leave it as 6. I find it's easier to leave it this way. It doesn't really add any overhead if you're trying to set that range up. All right, but that's what we can do since we don't have a randomized function. And this sample is available as the random item sample under view samples. So check it out. That's all I got. Happy Thanksgiving.
Awesome. Very, very cool, Chris. Always entertaining. Thank you for all of the amazing list formatting. All right, let's jump back to our slides. And again, thanks to all the attendees today for the call. The demos were fantastic. GitHub contributions and on the SharePoint Spaces and custom lists, and of course the list formatting facts with Chris. Now, one note on the demo that we started with GitHub and the web editor, we currently have 14 countries represented. So 5 for the 2 lead countries of the US and UK. Definitely dive in. If you're watching this video, it is still open for you to contribute. We're leaving it open, so take advantage of that. We'd love to see everyone get involved and reach out if you have any questions. The recording will be available in 24 hours at the Microsoft 365 Community YouTube channel, aka.ms/m365pnp/videos. You can always follow us on Twitter at Microsoft 365 Dev and at Microsoft 365 PnP. Our next general dev call will be 2 weeks from today, December 9th, same time. And our next Viva Connections and SharePoint Framework call will be 1 week from today, December 2nd at 7 a.m. as well. There are other developer community calls available to you. Our platform call is aka.ms/m365-dev-call. Again, that is every Tuesday, coming directly to you from Microsoft, as well as our adaptive cards, identity platform, Office add-ins, Power Apps, and of course our bi-weekly calls. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful long weekend if you're in the States, and thanks for being an amazing community.